A wonderful day to you guys. I hope everybody is doing well. So, today's topic is actually a request by one of my juniors from National Medical College, Dr. Riddhi. So, a big shout out to Dr. Riddhi at first. And now we get into the topic, that is the parts of the facial nerve. So, basically, we can broadly classify the facial nerves divisions into three. The first is the intracranial, then we have the intratemporal, then we have the extracranial. The intracranial part is that which extends from its origin, from which is basically the nucleus, which is located in the pons, up to its entry into the internal acoustic meatus. The intratemporal part extends from the entry into the internal acoustic meatus up to its exit from the stylomastoid foramen. The extracranial part is that part of the nerve which is present beyond the exit from stylomastoid foramen. So now we have to know in detail about the intratemporal part. The thing is, the intratemporal part of the facial nerve is entirely housed in a bony canal called the fallopian canal. Now, coming to the intratemporal part in particular, there are four subdivisions of this part. The first one is the meatal part, then we have the labyrinthine part, then the tympanic, finally the mastoid. The meatal part is that which is present inside the internal acoustic meatus, and as we know, the internal acoustic meatus has such a structure, and the facial nerve is located anterosuperiorly in it. It is separated from the superior vestibular nerve by a bar of bone called the Bill's bar. Inferiorly, we have the cochlear nerve and the inferior vestibular nerve. So, the labyrinthine part begins when the facial nerve enters the inner ear from the internal acoustic meatus. It basically extends up to the first genu area. So, the tympanic segment begins when the facial nerve enters the middle ear. So, it begins at the medial wall of middle ear, where the facial nerve makes the first genu. Now, as we had already discussed in the previous video, there are certain structures that are related to the horizontal or the tympanic segment or the horizontal segment of the facial nerve, which form its landmarks. These structures are three: processus cochleariformis, horizontal or lateral semicircular canal, and the oval window. The processus cochleariformis, in relation to it, the nerve is anterosuperior to it, and the horizontal canal is present superior to the nerve, and the oval window is present inferior to it. Now, coming to the mastoid part, the facial nerve takes a second genu, which is at the junction of the medial wall and the posterior wall of the middle ear. So, from this second genu area, we can count it as the mastoid segment. We can also say it is the mastoid segment begins close to the pyramid area. So now from the second genu, the nerve undertakes a vertical course, and in this course, it is again related to certain structures, which thereby form the landmarks of this segment. They are the pyramid, fossa incudis, tympanomastoid suture line. So it is better if we have a diagrammatic picturization of this segment. Thereby, we go for a diagram now. This part would be the meatal part, followed by the labyrinthine part, and then we come to the medial wall of the middle ear and the posterior wall. So here, as we see, the nerve makes the first genu on the medial wall, then it goes posteriorly, and at the junction between the medial and posterior wall, it makes the second genu. Then it runs vertically downwards and exits at the stylomastoid foramen. So as we see here, this is called the first genu area. Then in the first genu area, the topic of importance is that there is the geniculate ganglion present here. And in relation to it, we have the processus cochleariformis, horizontal canal, and the oval window. These three structures thereby form the landmarks for the horizontal or tympanic segment. Now coming to the mastoid or the vertical segment, we have the pyramid and the fossa incudis. So basically the nerve lies posterolateral to the pyramid, and the in relation to the fossa incudis, the nerve is infromedial. Now I had also stated about the tympanomastoid suture line, and in relation to the tympanomastoid suture line, the nerve lies posterior. So once the beyond the point of exit from the stylomastoid foramen, it is considered as the extracranial part, as we already know. So this extracranial part is present within the parotid gland. Here the nerve gives off two primary branches, temporofacial and the cervicofacial branches. These branches further subdivide to give off in total 5 terminal branches, which as we already know are called the pes anserinus, temporal, zygomatic, buccal, marginal mandibular, and the cervical branch. So, and one more important thing to remember here is that there are dehiscences that may be present within the canal that houses the facial nerve, and the dehiscences are more common in the tympanic or the horizontal part, congenital dehiscences. And the second genu area is the area where there is a maximum chance of damage to the facial nerve during mastoid surgery. This is the most common site of injury during mastoid surgery. And lastly, we also need to know the dimensions of these four segments of the facial nerve. The meatal part is 8 to 10 millimeter in length. The labyrinthine part is 3 to 4 millimeter in length. Tympanic part is around 11 millimeter in length, and the mastoid part is around 13 millimeter in length. So now the important thing is that in the labyrinthine part, the nerve is both shortest and the narrowest. Narrowest due to the fact that the fallopian canal is very narrow in this area. So in an already narrow fallopian canal, if there is further edema due to any reason, the nerve can easily be compressed. So in any condition that causes edema, the segment that is more liable to be injured is the labyrinthine segment of facial nerve. So with that being said, we come to the end of this topic, which is the parts of the facial nerve. So thank you guys for watching, and please do like, share, and subscribe.